have a purpose in my life. I get up every morning. I try to be grateful and happy and just do better than the previous day. I'm on a mission. Like in my office, we're totally full, booked way out in advance. And that was how they got me. They said, Reed, if you would teach others, because everything I developed was for our office to make us the best, that everyone walking in the door would get results. But when I kept hearing it would help a lot of people if you teach others to do what you're doing, I finally put a workshop together and it just took off from there. So yeah, having a purpose in life is amazing, and expanding it, making it duplicatable and expanding it is even better.
What is up, Impact Heroes? Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rick Ornelas. Thank you for spending some time with us today, because we know time's a valuable resource and we're going to make it worth your while. I appreciate each and every one of you, not just for listening, but for who you are. I know you're sparking change to make the world a better place every day, and I am humbled and grateful for your efforts. It takes all of us doing our part to spread positive change, and that's what this show is all about. Motivating you with stories of struggle, courage, and hope to empower you to make a difference in your life and the lives of others.
In case you missed it,
kindness isn't softness, kindness is a strength. And if we see a world being kind to one another, everybody's experience of life will be different, will be better. I think we'd see no lack in society. I'm not saying that people won't earn different amounts and things like that, and some people will have more and some people will have less, but there shouldn't be any lack if we see a world full of kindness and where people are connected.
Available everywhere you listen to your podcasts.
Welcome back to Impact Heroes. Today we have a super special episode, and I am here with the latest iSpark social impact hero, and it is a privilege and honor to have him on this show as a guest. Our guest today has spent 25 years helping people find out what's wrong so they can fix it naturally. I love that. He is one of the most experienced clinicians in his field and is the director of a wellness center with over 10,000 clients they have helped. If that's not enough, his functional diagnostic nutrition course has over 4,000 graduates in 50 countries around the world. So who knows how many thousands of individuals his work has reached in their mission to help people take control of their health to live more vibrant lives. He serves on the advisory board of the American Natural Wellness Coaches Board and the American Association of Natural Wellness Coaches, and loves teaching others how to continue the cause. He's not only driven and passionate in his work, but also in his gardening and riding motorcycles as well. He's a board-certified holistic health practitioner, certified nutritional therapist, and is an expert in functional lab testing and holistic lifestyle medicine. He's also one of the authors of The Gap: Simple Steps to Reclaim Your Health and Reverse Most Chronic Diseases. So please welcome the acclaimed, intelligent, and bold founder of the Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Certification Course and Community, Reed Davis. Reed, welcome to the iSpark Change podcast.
Rick, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure. I've been knowing about you for a while and very impressed with what you do too. I think we're pretty like-minded from what I know, so I'm looking forward to this.
Oh, yes, me as well. And that I can honestly say, and this is no discredit to you, Reed, I can honestly say that most of the people I have on the show, I'm fairly aligned with, because we are doing the things that by our definition are, make us social impact heroes. We're making a difference in the lives of others. We're helping others to improve humanity and have that positive impact. So we see you as someone who spreads positive change on a regular basis, whose actions have that ripple effect and that positive effect on humanity. By our definition, like I said, a social impact hero. So I have to start out, Reed, by asking you the question that we ask all our guests. We see you as a hero. Do you see yourself as a hero?
Yeah, I'm too shy for that, but no, I've done heroic things. Do tend to step out. I'm a guy you'd want on your team if something was going down and someone had to step up and take on a challenge or something like that. So I like challenges. I definitely am working in an alternative field in the health space, so you have to be brave. I was told once that courage is not the lack of fear. because I'm afraid like anybody, but it's overcoming that and doing what you got to do anyway. So I appreciate those comments.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm a firm believer in that as well, is that, we're all gonna feel the fear, and you're still just have to move forward. And without individuals like yourself to do that, then there would be no progress, right? There would be no progress, and you wouldn't have helped, tens of thousands of people without going past that.
Amen.
So tell me, Reed, in your story, and I've read through, how you got started, and that's where I want to begin, with this episode. Is every hero doesn't just wake up and overnight they're doing the heroic work that they're doing, right? And they're helping all these people. So what really got you started, 20, 25 years ago? What got you started down that heroic path to, start doing the work that you've been doing?
Well, in the health space, it happened in 1999. I've been doing environmental law and conservation and saving the whole planet, air, birds, water, trees, beasts, a real warrior. But something sparked in me I just started wondering, well, what about people? What about people? I was witnessing, dead or injured flora and fauna and so on. And I started wondering about people. I was in my 40s back then. I'm a real OG now, they call me. but I just thought, man, if I could help people, that'd be better than just, again, animals and things, the nature and stuff. So including myself, I also admittedly, even though I was healthy, I didn't want anything sneaking up on me. So I decided to change fields. I was also then, my oldest was in high school as an athlete, and he was going to this wellness center for chiropractic and wellness and things, just to keep him in shape. He was a fantastic athlete and still is all these years later. But I was listening to the doctors there talk about wellness, and, they weren't doing drugs and surgery, and it was just how to live in a way that would be more conducive to being. And I said, hey, I want to come work for you. Like I'm switching jobs. And in 3 weeks I was running the whole office. And I just kind of like that. I'm a guy that gets serious about things, and I want to help. And I didn't know anything. I had a lot to learn. But here's what I tell people, Rick, and I didn't have anything to unlearn. I just, and that's kind of what I do now. 25 years later, obviously I learned a lot, and now I'm teaching some practitioners what I know, what I learned, and the system that I developed, and it's definitely a different system than the modern medical system. And so, it's just designed around building health, plain and simple. We don't treat disease, we build health. And I could go into any amount of detail you want on that and how I discovered some of the things. But the bottom line is that some people have a lot to unlearn. Like the way standard medicine is practiced, you got to unlearn a little bit of that if you want to do this kind of work. This is the evolution of medicine. We've evolved, and we'd like if everybody jumped on the bandwagon,
Yeah, and so I've been involved in healthcare wellness for, essentially most of my career, essentially almost all of my career. Started out working for, some pharmaceutical and medical companies way back when I was cutting my teeth in sales, and then in training and management, and then worked for a few startups that were in the healthcare space. And then now, I own a health and wellness business myself. Revive Biohacking. So I own that as well as what I do with iSpark Change and other areas. And so that's been a big part of my life. My wife's a fitness instructor, and it's always been an integral part of our life. And I realized many years ago, probably similar to, how you did, Reed, is that you have to take care of your own health, that, you have to be responsible for it. You have to do the things to maintain that wellness and do the things to make sure that you can enjoy what you like to do, and that you'll be able to do that for a long time.
Sure.
And,
we call it walking the talk. And so it's not enough to preach to others, which is easy to do. And maybe that applies to more than health, spiritual life and things like that. You kind of want to set an example. Mm-hmm. And that's what I teach in my course that I teach is how to, everyone works on themselves first. So I could give you more of the history if you want, or I could just tell you though that after I'd been in the office for 10 years, really doing a lot of work. I mean, I worked really hard to try to help people, all at the underlying causal level, never diagnosing or treating, because I'm not a physician. You're not allowed to. What I found out is, well, you don't want to either. Instead of diagnosing and treating specifics, find out what's really wrong and help people fix it with themselves, empower them. So that takes some walking the talk and setting an example. And so that's what I teach in my course. You're going to do this on yourself first. All my trainees, students, they run all the labs that I teach. I teach lab work and natural protocols. Mm-hmm. And so, but yeah, everyone has to do it on themselves, or what good it's the best way to learn also.
Yeah, exactly. I would like to go back to the history a little bit, just because that I feel is super important to getting on that journey of helping people. So you mentioned that you like helping people, you want to help people, and you wanted to do more, and then you saw with your son being an athlete and everything. So what was that's kind of how it started. What was the driving factor for founding the FDN and for creating the course and everything?
For me, I just get chills sometimes because I remember how much fun I had when I first started working in that office in 1999. And I didn't know anything, but I was just eager and like a sponge. And so there was really smart doctors there, and it was alternative health as well. So I've seen the evolution of that. Alternative became integrative, integrative became complementary. Now, thank goodness, we've got functional medicine. Mm-hmm. Which does look a little bit higher upstream for the underlying causes and things, but it's still also very much trapped in the diagnosis and treatment model because they're physicians, they're licensed, they have a board, they have a standard of care, and they just can't go too far outside of that in the system the way it is. So, but for me, it was started at the office, and I was going to run I was there to help develop the center. And, kind of a businessman. And the owner invited me to go to a nutrition school with her. She was getting her diplomat in nutrition, mm-hmm. and said, hey, would you like to come along? And Reed, you can work on our patients in between classes. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be exciting? And then I fell in love with the face-to-face with the customer, so to speak, mm-hmm. and the patients of the doctors. I just call them clients because I'm not a physician, but man, did I have exciting time. I worked there doing that for 10 years. And my job was to run the lab. So all of the blood, urine, saliva, stool, most of it alternative. Some of it like research use only and not even being used by physicians. Alternative testing. And I had a game audience, if you will. Thank goodness, people. Well, you know what it was? They were desperate. They were a lot of people walking in the door had been to 6 or 8 or 10 different practitioners. Oof. And I thought, well, that's strange. I really had never been to a doctor. I didn't know what it was like. I was healthy, so to speak. And I ride motorcycles, as you said in the introduction, and I love riding. I live in Southern California. It only rains 40 days a year here. So if that. So I'm always out riding and thinking. And I was thinking, man, these people are caught in a cycle of trial and error. I don't think they should be putting their health in anyone else's hands. We got to get them to be empowered or enough knowledge to take care of themselves. That was my ultimate goal. And so I ran labs at the clinic. For 10 years, I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. And I had great mentorship. And some of this is in my more extended bio and the books that I've written. But it was just run labs. Use the data to customize a program for Mr. Jones or Mrs. Smith, whoever it was. It didn't matter what their problem was. To me, I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing and treating anything. Here's what the labs revealed as healing opportunities. Your hormones are out of balance, your immune system's overactive, your digestion isn't working, your detoxification systems. I learned the anatomy, physiology, biochemistry of all of these things. I was in the office 7 days a week. I went to every seminar I could and I had great mentors. But what I'm getting at is that the sheer volume of work and making my own observations are what led to the FDN program, which is what your question was. How did I start? Well, I worked my butt off for 10 years first, making every mistake and every observation that could be made with a super high volume of people. And then, only then, when I was encouraged to teach by multiple people, I mean, I'd go do a lecture and some elderly lady would come up and you should be teaching the doctors, Yeah. But one day, one of the labs that I use, I'll just finish this part with one of the labs that I used a lot. The director called me up and he goes, Reed, so-and-so from this lab, who the hell are you? I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm Reed. I just loved doing what I did. I didn't know I was doing. He goes, no, you don't understand. He goes, we have like famous doctors' names, offices. This one in particular, he says, that guy's got 5 doctors in his office. You run more labs than him and his 5 doctors combined. So how the H are you doing that? Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't know. I just love it. I'm a good salesman, I guess. I don't know. I'm just really, really interested in getting people well and finding out what's really wrong. And he said, whatever you're doing, just go teach it. So it took 10 years, but I finally put a little course together. And now that was in 2008. So, I've been teaching a long time and still growing, still learning. But that's how the course started. And now it's just grown, thousands of practitioners in a lot of different countries. If they can get the labs done, that's why we're not in more countries. It's can you get the labs that I want to look at the data? That's the data we need on each person.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense from a regulatory standpoint. So
and just shipping and handling, it's like they're getting this lab work into some of these countries is very difficult.
Yeah, that does make sense. So one of those startups I worked was a laboratory, toxicology and a clinical laboratory. So yeah, that was one of them for a few years. So thank you for sharing the story, because I'm glad that others, spurred you along, whether it was the old lady wagging the finger or the lab company or whoever it was, because I feel what I've seen in my life and the many numerous, hundreds of people that I've spoken to on the show and in other platforms is that I think it's our duty to pass on that knowledge in the service of others and for, the greater good. And so that's why we always talk about on this program, that ripple effect that when you train one person, you teach one person, and then they go out and they teach 5 people or 10 people or 100 people. And so that impact just is exponentially greater. And
yes,
those are many things that you may not never know that impact or hear any of those stories, right? The good stories that come from it, but at least at your heart, when you're doing the teaching, then that you're doing your part to start things off.
Yeah. That's a really great point. And 2 things come to mind. One is, and I've seen some of your interviews where you are the interviewee, and you answer questions a lot like I would. It's like I have a purpose in my life. I get up every morning, I try to be grateful and happy and just do better than the previous day or week or month or year or whatever. But the other thing is just working real hard. I'd say, I'm on a mission, and I could only see so many people. Like in my office, we couldn't see any more people. We're totally full, booked way out in advance and things like that. And that was how they got me. They said, Reed, if you would teach others, because everything I developed was for our office, for my practice, to make us the best, that everyone walking in the door would get results. That's why I developed. But when I kept hearing, you would help a lot of people if you teach others to do what you're doing. I finally put a workshop together, and it just took off from there. So to your point, yeah, having a purpose in life is amazing, and expanding it, making it duplicatable and expanding it is even better.
Yeah, even better, expands that impact. So today, how would you define, in just a word or a couple words, how would you define your purpose today, Reed?
Stay on the mission, stay on task. Don't let anyone distract you, because now I have a staff. It was just me. And when I left that office, by the way, I just had one assistant part-time. And now I have 50 people working for me. And it's, I'm a pretty good leader, I'm not a micromanager, so it's all pretty happy and everything like that. But, I just stay with the mission. That's what, because people, we could do this and we could do that. And that doesn't, you got to stay focused. Here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an army of FDN practitioners who are out there doing the work. The same work I was doing. I don't want just 1,000 doing it. I want 10,000 people doing it, or 50, whatever the number becomes. It's all.
And that number is going to keep growing. So don't be shy, because that number will just continue to grow and grow, and then that 50 will be 100, and the number that that you've impacted or taught or trained, will be 10,000 instead of 4. It's probably bigger than 4 now, but will be 10 or 20 or 100. And
the other thing I have to say, for just transparency, is that not everyone who takes my course is a practitioner. So that was what I developed it for. And then after the first workshop, that's all it was back then, the people who took it just sort of wouldn't go away. Like, well, what else? And how do you do this? And how do you do this part? What about this part and that part? Remember, I'd been doing it 10 years, so I had sort of worked through all the business considerations, you name it, recruiting, customers and things. I was pretty good at that, actually. And so we formed an alumni group. It required me to form an alum and made it official. So my point is that out of 4, maybe it's 5 now, I don't know, thousands of people who took the course, we have well over 1,000 of them actually doing it for a living, practicing it. Mm-hmm. So some people take it for their own edification, to work on themselves, their families. I would call them hobbyists.
Yeah.
That
sure.
wasn't my mission to create a bunch of hobbyists. It was so the core, over 1,000, I'll call them dues-paying members of my alumni, they're serious. They're out there filling the mission. They're the ones who I'm working hard now to help be successful. And so not only do we have a great course, we have a great alumni to continue the growth of each person.
Yeah, to carry that torch along. So what have been well, 2 questions I want to ask, and I'll ask this one first. What have been the biggest challenges in growing that and expanding the message? And I'm gonna steer you a little bit on the challenge part, specifically challenges with fighting that mainstream medicine, that that typical. What's been the biggest challenges there?
Well, that part of it is, it's not so much the medical industrial complex per se. I mean, they're very powerful, but we don't, we work with people. So the challenge is to have people just be open-minded, and that we're not some, they know immediately almost. People, they say they resonate with what we say. So I don't worry about that challenge very much. We're not practicing. Remember my previous position and training was in law, so I'm not breaking any laws. We do not cross the line of practicing medicine without a license. We simply use the labs to identify the healing opportunities. Yeah. And it's very difficult to argue with. No one's ever challenged me on that, because they know what I'm talking about. They just can't do it. They are required by their licensure and their standard of care to provide a diagnosis. Plus, they can't get paid. insurance companies, what's the DX code?
Yeah.
And then the CPT codes for what you do about, what did you prescribe or what kind of surgery or therapy and they're testing, boy, that's expensive. People ask me, well, how much do these tests cost? Nothing compared to what they're going to run you through.
Yeah, a fraction.
So I don't really have to go up against the medical industrial complex much. The only challenge they are is that they're so pervasive and well entrenched, and they have unlimited amounts of money to spend. You know that healthcare is $2.3 trillion business in the United States.
Yeesh.
And that 60% of all people in America, adults, have a chronic disease. That's like 200 million people are sick. So you're never going to run out of customers. 30% of all kids have a chronic disease. So there's another bunch of millions, so we're never going to run out of customers, and we keep sort of a person at a time. So not only have I taught these people, and they're from all walks, some are changing careers, some are already practitioners, licensed. They at least have college degrees and a couple certificates, whether it be in nutrition or fitness or something. So they're already smart people dedicated to helping others, and they just want the tools and the training so they can understand how things really work. And the course is very robust in its anatomy, physiology, biochemistry. I love teaching that stuff. I get into the weeds just enough that, not too deep, but pretty damn deep. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I don't really worry about that medical industrial complex. And
that's good. That's good because
I don't worry about it. We do what we do. We educate, and people are attracted. And like I said in the beginning, 25 years ago, I noticed really didn't take talking to more than 5 or 10 people. They're caught in a cycle of trial and error, frustrated, struggling. They've already spent a bunch of money and seen a bunch of practitioners trying this and trying that, and nothing's working. And I said one day out riding my motorcycle, I'm going to be the last person they need to see. Now, what a joke that was at the time. It was naive. I had so much to learn, but again, nothing to unlearn. And I spent 10 years, I already said it, thousands of labs on thousands of people. You learn a few things.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. You can't argue with the data, right? So whether, it's my last question or what you're talking about and able to show people a path towards their health, the data is the data, right? It's like what you and I were talking about before we got on the show, the analytics and data. That's going to show that's going to be the proof. The proof is
performance
in the data.
Results. Yeah,
the results. Yeah, exactly. So how about on the other side? So let's talk about the other side, challenges aside. Let's talk about the successes, the success stories, the type of people that you've helped. So
I got a few favorites, and by the way, even when I didn't know what I was doing, we would sort of, and that's part of the discovery. I had so many stories. A lady come in the office and she was feeling sad. She was on about her 8th visit for chiropractic and some modalities we had. And I would greet people and take them back to the treatment rooms and stuff as a sort of a triage and manager. And while I was developing my own system, and she said, I go, what's wrong? She says, oh, Reed, it's just 40 pounds extra weight. The last 2 years I've been on this medication for the hives, blotchy skin. And they put me on this meds that makes me gain weight. So I've gained 40 pounds in 2 years, and it's just really frustrating. And I said, okay, well, and she goes, no, she wanted to go get her story out because I had an answer for her. But she said, and I went to the doctor the other day and I told him how frustrated I was with the extra 40 pounds. And he told her, lady, you can be fat or you can have the hives.
Wow.
Take your pick. You want the hives? No, then you're going to be fat. And she said, well, that's very depressing. He said, I'll be happy to write your prescription for antidepressants.
Oh my gosh. So
there's her frustration. She's one of just thousands of people that came through that tried all this, was suffering, tried all these things, nothing's working. And I asked her, well, why didn't you ever try to find out why you get the hives? And her head spun around so hard. I swear I thought I heard her neck cracking. I said, oh, you're not going to need your chiropractic adjustment today. You just, what? I said, why didn't you try to find out why you get the hives? And she just spun around and said, what do you mean? How could I do that? I sent her home with a couple test kits. And I'll wrap it up by saying that within, I think it was 13 days of getting the results and changing her diet and bedtime and some other things around the house. There's a lot to it, but within 13 days after the report of findings and consultation, she said, I'm off the medication. I told my doctor, I'm not taking this anymore. Why? Because I found out why I get the hives. That's something her physician had never even looked for. So that's the kind of, that one, I've got kids that had ADD, ADHD gone. I had a principal call me and he wanted to know what I put Billy on because Billy was a different boy. He's no longer bursting in class and poking the other kids and not paying attention. He's back to good grades, paying attention. He wanted to know what I put him on. I said, a better diet, bedtime, exercise routine, and, things like that. He just, it wasn't a pill. He wasn't interested. But that's the kind of results. And I have others, people with migraines and asthma and stuff. I coached football for 15 years at non-volunteer, Pop Warner League stuff, just because I loved it. And so many kids, and I just told their parents, hey, you just need to run the right labs and get them straightened out. And so I have just countless numbers of great stories. I'll say one thing about that, giving testimonials. What works for one person could work for you. It could do little help or none. It could even make you worse depending on what you do about it. So I learned that everyone's different. If I had one message, there's no two people alike. Everyone needs a custom plan. There's no one diet. There's no one supplement. There's no one anything. It's like you got to run the labs, get the data. I call it intelligence gathering. Get some intel. Then you can decide what to do for you specifically.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I knew you would have a lot of success stories. I knew they'd be numerous. So we always talk about that spark moment that I mentioned earlier, Reed, which is where our actions or the actions of another have that ripple effect that goes far beyond the initial act, right? And it could be that little boy that you're helping, and then the teacher and the other kids, and or the woman losing weight, or not having her hives. I mean, there's the ripple effect goes far beyond. Just like I said, the ripple effect with people that you've taught and who they reach. So share an example if you can, of a spark moment where someone else impacted you and you didn't know the impact that was going to have on you at the moment. And then it wasn't until later that you realized that had a very big impact.
The office that I worked at, I can think of a number of things, but even from the very beginning, when I realized that the body had an innate intelligence, that, it's inborn into every cell, tissue, organ, system, and that's what will determine whether you get healthy or not. If you have that innate intelligence express itself, great. We're designed perfectly. Same person, the same thing that had created all that, created the universe, and what holds the stars and moon together in their places, all of that intelligence is in us, and it's in every cell. And so you just need to remove the interferences and get back to what I call normal. Normal's really good. Headaches aren't normal, hysterectomies aren't normal. I mean, and we just hear these crazy things about what's normal. It's not normal. Normal's really healthy and good, and it's your birthright. And it comes from this innate intelligence that's in every cell, as I said. And so that's the power. That's what we use to get people healthy. We nurture the innate intelligence while removing obstacles to healing. If you can identify them, which is what the labs are for, you can remove them. Sometimes it takes some creativity, but you get people on this path, and it's really awesome. So I would say that was one of the most impactful moments when I learned about it. I go, yeah, that totally makes sense. Innate intelligence. Okay, now I know how we're gonna go forth and multiply.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, cool. Thank you very much for sharing that. So before we wrap up with our final question here, Reed, how can our audience learn more about your community and your course, and how can they learn more about you and connect?
Yeah, thanks. I think going to fdntraining.com/Rick, I believe is what we should say, right? So yeah, fdntraining.com/Rick.
Fantastic. Well, we'll put that in the show notes. We'll put the other links to, your other social media and so forth. We'll make sure that's all in the show notes so people can learn more and connect with you. So
Perfect.
Final question here, Reed, that we ask all our guests on the iSpark Change podcast, because our goal is to positively impact 1 billion people within 5 years of launching our upcoming social impact social media platform. Now, we know we can't do it alone. We know we need the help of impactful leaders like yourself, heroes, to show others the way, because a lot of people feel, as I once did, that they're too small to make a difference, and they don't know where to start. So we value your thoughts and opinions as a social impact hero. So I want you to peer into the future, 5 years down the road, and tell me, what can the world become if everyone starts making that change to take care of themselves and also impact others and make life better for others?
I hate to sound so corny, but the world has too much lack of peace, so peace and prosperity, and to fulfill our nature and to serve. I think those are the things. And if people start working on their own health, it takes a certain amount of self-awareness. You become aware that, hey, you know what? People are people. There's no room for hate, and so we learn to love each other, and you form coalitions and working together and have peace in the world. I know that, you ask Miss America, what's your one world desire? World peace. Like, it sounds kind of corny, but it's absolutely the goal is to have, fight the enemy and have peace.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that answer, Reed. What a wonderful world that would be. Peaceful world. And thank you for taking time to share your heart and your wisdom with our audience. You came in, you over-delivered as I expected you would. Your passion, drive, and impact are evident. You're positive, humble, and you lead with a heart of service and gratitude, which tells me you're going to continue to have success in all facets of life. And this is only the beginning of your time as a social impact hero.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you for taking time, Impact Heroes. It's our stories that connect us all, and we loved hearing Reed's today. Reed Davis, you're not only an inspiring and amazing human being, you truly are an iSpark Change social impact hero. We'll see you all next time.
Do you want Rick to speak at your event? Here's what others have to say.
Did not know his story, and it was so inspirational, and his presence on stage, his authenticity was just incredible.
Performance made me feel some type of way. My name is Craig Siegel.
If you're looking for a speaker for your next event, hire Rick. I promise you this, you will not be disappointed.
Visit rickcornelis.com to book him today.
Remember, Impact Heroes, every positive action can be a spark moment that has a ripple effect that spreads far beyond the initial act. So go out there and spark change. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this episode, then please smash that 5-star rating on iTunes or Spotify and leave a review. We value your comments and we want to hear from you in the community. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and we'll see you next week on the iSpark Change podcast.